Yesterday, the European Parliament voted to accept the Migration Pact. Under the legislation, member countries will have to accept illegal migrants and, if they object, pay financial penalties. €20,000 per migrant unaccepted. The policy of the European Union, the European Commission, is disastrous for EU countries. Commissioner Johansson, who is in charge of migration, says that the European Union will take in more than 4 million migrants a year from the Middle East and North Africa. This is a road leading to disaster and to terrorist attacks. Experts point out that the adoption of the pact could increase the number of illegal migrants, as newcomers from the Middle East and Africa will feel invited. From statistics kept in the old Union countries, it is clear that the more migrants, the higher the crime rate. In a total utopian way, people are brought in en masse from an alien civilization. With such a large number of migrants, there can be no assimilation, and with such a different culture, it is even more difficult, and with such large numbers, it is simply impossible. Civic platform politicians are bullishly announcing, "We will protect Poland from the relocation mechanism." So much in theory. In practice, however, it was the politicians elected from the lists of the European coalition, led by Civic Platform, who voted for the introduction of the Migration Pact. Later, Marek Belka, Łukasz Kohut, Robert Biedron filed a correction and abstained from the vote.
Donald
Tusk has fooled everyone because he doesn't keep his word. That's one time, he's volatile, and he doesn't fit in with our nation. They follow his instructions, only it is so quiet. Poles can't afford to support the multitude of migrants because our indigenous people need help. When the migration crisis began in Europe in 2015, Ewa Kopac's government wanted to agree to forced relocation. As a country, we are prepared for almost any number. For any number, as a country, we are prepared. It was not until the Law and Justice government put a hard veto on migration policy. Moreover, when Donald Tusk presided over the European Council, he advocated punishing Poland for not taking in illegal migrants. But this will involve not repealing certain consequences. These are the rules in Europe. When the European Parliament voted on the migration package in Brussels, illegal migrants stormed the Polish-Belarusian border. Tree branches and stones flew towards Polish officers. One border guard was injured. Polish security services sent more than 220 illegal migrants back to Belarus. This group was equipped with 12 ladders. In addition, they had dangerous tools in the form of sharpened sticks and stones. They also had handmade clubs, finished with nails. The border guard emphasises that the fence built by the Law and Justice government is an invaluable aid to their service. When the previous government decided to undertake this project, Donald Tusk thundered, "We will not support them in such, to put it mildly, ambiguous ventures and ideas." There is a Russian hybrid attack on the Polish-Belarusian border, targeting our country. Moscow wanted to flood Poland and the Baltic states with a wave of illegal migrants so that we would not be able to accept real refugees from Ukraine. Thanks to the service of the Polish uniformed officers, this plan failed. When the Russian attack on the Polish border began, politicians from Donald Tusk's camp bought into the Kremlin's propaganda. Let these people into Poland at last. Who they are will be determined later. It's as if these people have declared war on us. These are poor people who are looking for their place on earth, and there is no need to make such disgusting, grim propaganda targeting migrants, because these are people who need help. During a recent referendum last autumn, citizens were asked to decide whether they agreed with the forced relocation of illegal migrants. The vast majority was against, but as a result of the actions of Donald Tusk's camp, the turnout did not exceed 50%, meaning that the referendum is not binding, and Poland did not gain a strong argument on the European stage. Paweł Błoch, TV Republika. As in Poland, in the United States, the right to life is one of the main axes of the political dispute. In the 1970s, the Supreme Court struck down a ban on the murder of unborn children, declaring it a violation of the right to privacy. 40 years of access to abortion has created an estimated $4 billion industry in the United States. Shockingly, the bodies of unborn children are used in the cosmetics industry, among other things. Over the decades, abortion clinics have claimed millions of lives. US pro-life advocates estimate that the economic losses associated with depopulation have resulted in losses of $7 trillion. That's 32% of the United States GDP. 2 years ago, in June 2022, the Supreme Court recognized abortion consent as an area of responsibility for individual states. Left-wing state parliaments on the east and west coasts have maintained abortion access. Meanwhile, Christian states in the south and Midwest have enacted bans that apply from Idaho to Texas and from Arizona to North Carolina. Some state parliaments have enacted total bans. In a few, the restriction is based on the age of the child, 6 weeks after conception, 12 weeks from conception, 15 to 18 weeks from conception. On the 1st of April, the Florida State Supreme Court ruled that the right to privacy does not apply to abortion, which automatically banned abortions beyond 6 weeks of a child's life. The biggest uproar came from the Arizona State Supreme Court, which outlawed abortion altogether and returned to an 1864 law. Killing a child is possible only when the pregnancy threatens the life of the mother. European leaders gathered in Vilnius on Thursday for the Three Seas Initiative Summit, joined by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Leaders from a dozen Central European states, including Poland, the Czech Republic and Romania, are attending, with the war in Ukraine prominent on the agenda. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged allies to help his country with air defence systems and give Ukraine time to develop its own. Zelensky met beforehand several leaders for bilateral meetings and signed another security agreement with Latvia, committing to spending at least 0.25% of its gross domestic product over 10 years on cyber defence, demining and unmanned technologies. Poland is in talks with Ukraine about supplying it with Soviet-era air defence missiles, Polish President Andrzej Duda told a news conference in the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius, on Thursday. During our bilateral meeting today, President Vladimir and I discussed certain other resources, namely Soviet-era missiles under Polish responsibility, which we have in our warehouses, and we have talked about handing them over to the Ukrainian-era missile defence. I'll continue discussing this with the Defence Minister, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, after returning to Warsaw. Poland is very important to us. It is a very powerful partner, geographically and historically. We expect no less powerful security guarantees agreement, not just rhetoric or declaration, but a serious project. I am happy that Poland joined the Vilnius Declaration of the Group of Seven. It is very important to us. There are several circles of negotiations between our teams, and I hope relevant documents between our countries will be ready. We need these security guarantees. Ukraine also plans to sign a bilateral security agreement with Lithuania. More than 7 zlotys for a litre of gasoline and almost 7 for a litre of diesel. That's how much drivers have to pay at Polish gas stations today. Rather, I don't think it's possible for it to be at 5.19. Fortunately, gas is standing still for now. I have a gas car, so gas stands still for now. Let's stick to that. I don't drive a car, but there should be a discount. And if there isn't, it's Tusk's mistake. Tusk's mistake because it was Tusk who promised fuel at 5.19 zloty during the election campaign. I have a very concrete solution that could today make gasoline really at 5 zloty. And these are no miracles. And if you were Prime Minister, how much would fuel be at? At 5.19, and I can repeat that today. I know what the mechanisms are. Just one simple decision is enough to make gasoline in Poland cost not over 6 zloty, but 5 zloty. Today, Donald Tusk is the Prime Minister of Poland, but with this, the deal with the voters ends. I don't take responsibility for gasoline prices because it's not the Prime Minister's decision. However, the issue is not so much about the price of gasoline, but the responsibility for his work. I'm surprised people believe these trivialities of Mr. Tusk and that they will change their minds and something will change here in the country, because I think it's going to get worse, especially since the market situation is conducive to lower prices. Back then, a barrel cost $120 and the price of a dollar was about 4.5 zloty. Today, in fact, a barrel costs $89 and the dollar price is 3.93 zloty. That's not all. Since April, the 5% VAT rate on food has increased and the energy shield ceases to operate at the end of June. It will be stable and it will be acceptable. Stable and acceptable means how much? Stably and acceptably, Mr. Editor, as I said, this is a certain process that is continuing. Energy prices could rise dramatically, and the energy voucher bill, which was supposed to help the poorest, has just been withdrawn from legislative work. Donald Tusk will explain it in this way. that it's all due to the mistakes of the previous team and he can't carry out these wonderful plans of his. But this is already becoming less and less effective. This is exactly what the last local elections and the yellow card Tusk received showed us. Law and Justice won the provincial assembly elections with 34.27% of the vote. The Civic Coalition received almost 4 percentage points less. Konrad Wąż, TV Republika.